Okay, time now to take a look through the international newspapers with Diptyque Laurent. Diptyque, we're in fact going to start close to home here in France. Reactions pouring into the resignation of François de Rugy, the Environment and Solidarity Minister.
That's right. He was embroiled in the infamous Lobstergate scandal, accused of using taxpayers' money to pay for lavish dinners and extravagant home renovations. There is a little bit of schadenfreude in the press today. Look at Le Parisien, or Aujourd'hui en France as it's known around France. Look at their front page. Rugy pays his bill, noting that the minister resigned after, of course, a week of scandal. Elisabeth Borne will replace him, and she'll actually become the 7th ecology minister in 7 years and the 3rd in Emmanuel Macron's government. So it is sort of a position that might be a little bit cursed. Whereas Libération, the left-leaning paper, goes with this front page headline: Entrée plat désert, not dessert, but desert, referring to Rugy's political isolation or political desertion as a result of the scandal. Libération's editors nonetheless hailing this quote, democratic society that allowed such investigative journalism to have these repercussions.
Of course, Libération, a more left-wing leaning paper. What is the more right-wing leaning Le Figaro saying in its coverage?
It's a bit more muted, Yves. Le Figaro saying that de Rugy stepped down to avoid a political crisis and help Emmanuel Macron's government avoid yet another, quote, deadly summer, politically speaking. The paper playing devil's advocate, wondering if we shouldn't be slightly worried about the fact that public opinion essentially played judge, jury, and executioner in de Rugy's political career. But it does also concede, the paper, that in a France where the ordinary man is being asked to make extraordinary sacrifices now, the minister should be leading by example.
Okay. Well, now this week, Diptyque, lots of events and coverage of the half-a-century anniversary since the launch of Apollo 11, the spaceflight that brought men, a number of them, to the moon.
That's right. And I know this article really piqued your interest, Eve. Two of those astronauts are, of course, forever etched in history: Neil Armstrong and lunar module pilot Buzz Aldrin. The two men landing the Apollo spaceship on July the 20th, 1969. So in a few days, it'll be 50 years. What people might not know is that there was a third man, this man that you see in this New York Times article. His name is Michael Collins. He's somewhat of the forgotten astronaut aboard the Apollo 11 command module. He remained in orbit above the moon while he was waiting for Armstrong and Aldrin to return from the lunar surface. And the New York Times chats to him in this really fascinating article where he talks about what was going through his mind at the time. He talks about, for instance, drinking coffee and how he enjoyed being all alone in that module, sort of cut off from the world, while those images of the men landing on the moon were beamed back to Earth. He had no idea what was happening. He couldn't even see those images. He talks about what he would have done if Armstrong and Aldrin had not returned, and how he ended up on Apollo 11 thanks to the serendipitous fate of back surgery that had actually postponed an earlier mission, Apollo 8, to Apollo 11.
Fascinating story. Finally, Diptyque, from South Africa, of course, the mourning of a legendary singer and anti-apartheid activist, Johnny Clegg.
Here he is on the front page of Business Day, Eve. Hamba Kahle, Zulu for Godspeed, go well, the paper says to Johnny Clegg. Farewell, White Zulu. That's how the Afrikaans language paper Die Burger puts it on its front page. He passed away at the age of 66 yesterday from a long battle with pancreatic cancer. He brought us tubes, of course, like Asimbonanga, a tribute to Nelson Mandela imprisoned on Robben Island, Della, and Scatterlings of Africa. He was born in England but moved to what was known as Southern Rhodesia when he was 6 because his mom was a jazz singer from Southern Rhodesia. He then spent his adolescence in Johannesburg, and that's where he started learning classical guitar, but he felt it was too constraining and ended up learning, actually discovering Zulu street guitar that really opened his eyes to a whole new world, that world of black neighborhoods and migrant culture. He was also arrested several times for his involvement with minorities during the apartheid, hence why we called him the White Zulu. His dance steps, Zulu rhythms and lyrics made his music a soundtrack for what became a united South Africa.
And indeed, let's take a quick listen. We're going to leave you now with a short clip of the song and dance of Johnny Clegg. Do take care.